Do I live in a simulation? Sometimes I think to myself this whenever I get quite confused on a narrative after a fight. Because a man who just made $30 million in 5 months is said to have fumbled the bag. A man who has complete freedom to do whatever he wants, that all the other fighters wish they were in his position, fumbled the bag. A fighter who gets to live out his dreams of competing in a sport that he wanted ever since he was a kid, going up against the best in the world, while again making $30 million doing so, that he would never see in MMA, apparently fumbled the bag. Fumbling the bag. They gotta change this definition because people have been using it and now I'm kind of confused on what it means. Because if Ngannou fumbled the bag, we all want to fumble the bag then, right? Who wouldn't want to fumble the bag? And with the Francis Ngannou loss to Anthony Joshua, I don't understand the whole thing about him fumbling the bag again. Where is this coming from? And people are saying that Anthony Joshua will beat him in an MMA fight too? And this is not just some people. Even Demetrius Johnson said Anthony Joshua would beat Francis Ngannou.
Now, does Anthony Joshua beat Francis Ngannou in an MMA fight? I think he does. Here's the reason why. Because it will just be another striking match. Francis and AJ understands his distance. He understands the void. He has better hands than Francis, and he can make Francis even whiff and miss again. Unless Francis is going to change his tactic and go clinch him and wrestle him. But AJ is very athletic. He is smaller. He's more limber. I think he'd be able to stuff the shot and be able to give it to Francis Ngannou.
Our sport is cooked, man. Ngannou will literally exorcist crawl up to Joshua's legs, flip him on his head, and sit on his face. There's nothing Joshua would do about it. I have to be in a simulation. There's no way people believe this stuff, right? I'm going to throw it up as the knockout was so bad that it kind of left people in a state of just questioning things and skepticism about Francis Ngannou's career and abilities. There's dust everywhere, and before it settles, people are going to be saying some crazy stuff. That's essentially what I'm thinking right now. Number one, no, I don't think he fumbled the bag, because fumbling the bag is about the money, right? That's generally what people talk about when you fumble a bag. It's reported that he made $20 million in this fight with Anthony Joshua. That is generational wealth. He never has to fight again just from this Joshua fight alone. And he made $10 million against Tyson Fury, so he made generational wealth pretty much twice in a row. And there's an image that tells you the whole story. It tickles my belly a little bit. In his last UFC fight, Francis Ngannou said that he made $600,000 when he fought Ciryl Gane. He made $20 million in his last fight against Anthony Joshua. What kind of fumble is this? And yes, he would have made more money against Jon Jones if he never left the organization, but that's still less than what he made against Tyson Fury and what he made against Anthony Joshua. The thing that people have to understand is that there's no guarantees at the highest level of combat sports. He could have lost to Jon Jones and never get paid anywhere near that kind of money ever again. He could have lost his next fight against Tom Aspinall or Sergey Pavlovich. He could get knocked out just like he did here against Anthony Joshua if he fought one of those guys. That's the name of the game. And the way that Francis Ngannou fights, it's bound to happen at some point in his career. Maybe once, maybe twice, but it was going to happen at some point. The future is a gamble for a lot of fighters. They don't exactly know what's going to happen, but they have to believe in themselves enough that they're going to win every single fight. This is where that whole delusional aspect of a fighter comes in. Truly, nobody knows how these fights are going to go down. That's why MMA is so unpredictable. It could have been very likely that Ngannou lost to Jon Jones in his next fight if he stayed with the UFC and gained even less pay after that, going up against the other contenders. Or if he beat Jon Jones, he could have gotten knocked out by Sergey Pavlovich. Or Tom Aspinall could have taken him down and submitted him, or even knocked him out in the stand-up. We don't know what that future would have looked like. But what we do know is he fought in boxing, officially lost both of his boxing fights, but was able to still secure $30 million plus guaranteed. There are no two fights in MMA that Ngannou could have had to make him $30 million, unless like Brock Lesnar came back and fought him. And even that's a stretch. So when people say his image got hurt because he got knocked out, it doesn't really mean anything, because this whole aura thing is just made up for fun. It's not a real thing. Any fighter can lose. Any fighter can get knocked out. That's the reality of boxing and the reality of MMA. That could have happened in MMA as well. And people are also saying that it hurt his legacy. How does it hurt his legacy? He's not a boxer. If Jon Jones went up against Rico Verhoeven in kickboxing, got KO'd, it doesn't hurt his legacy either. These are different sports that operate in very different ways. Francis Ngannou was supposed to lose in boxing. He was never supposed to do well. Even against Tyson Fury, he wasn't supposed to do well. Everybody's expectations about Ngannou was that he was going to lose and potentially even get knocked out. In fact, a lot of people predicted that Fury would be the one that knocks out Francis Ngannou. So no, it doesn't hurt his legacy because he's an MMA fighter at the end of the day and he was never supposed to do well in boxing. And speaking about legacy is a bit pedantic in this whole thing because the fighter's priority is about the prize first. That comes before anything for most fighters, especially for someone who lived a difficult life that Francis did, right? He's going to want the prize more than legacy, or if people think a certain way about his legacy, which his legacy does not get hurt at all because he's an MMA fighter. Nothing happened to him in MMA. So making $30 million beats the possibility of winning against a few more top-level MMA fighters for a fraction of the pay. But then that leads to people saying that Ngannou fumbled the bag because now he'll get paid less moving forward and he'll get less opportunities. No, he doesn't get less opportunities and less pay. He gets what he was getting before. It goes back to normal, right? He reached a higher threshold in boxing for pay and opportunities. Now that he lost, he still has some of those opportunities, right? He might still come back to boxing and face someone in the future, but he's going to come back to his normal level. He's going to come back to getting paid the same he was going to get paid before. He's under contract with the PFL. He doesn't just suddenly get paid less now. And his opportunities are the same as before. He's going to be fighting the PFL heavyweight champion. So no, he did not fumble the bag in any sense of the word. The only fumbling that he potentially could have done is just beating some better guys in the UFC. That's the only fumble he had, but he doesn't care about that. In fact, most fighters, if they got the same opportunities as Ngannou, would not care about that either. They would take the route Ngannou went down. Even John Jones would go the route Ngannou went down if he had that opportunity. And then the discussion about Anthony Joshua coming into MMA and beating Francis Ngannou. No. Ngannou would beat Joshua easier in MMA than Joshua beat him in boxing. I even saw Demetrius Johnson say this. He said it would be a striking match and Joshua understands the distance of Ngannou now. No, it would not be a striking match. Look what he did to Ciryl Gane. And Ciryl Gane is an infinitely times better grappler than Anthony Joshua in every sense of the word. Ngannou would bear crawl to him, grab him by the legs, pick him up and dump him on his head before ground and pounding him into like a 30-second finish. There's a couple reasons why boxers do not come to MMA that much. Number one, they don't get paid the same, which is understandable. If they did get paid more, they would cross over. But number two, is too much for them to learn in such little time. They don't have enough time to learn takedowns, learn kicks, learn knees, learn the new distance, learn how to fight in the cage with smaller gloves. A lot of the stuff they do in boxing to defend punches is going to be changed in MMA. You got to keep your hands lower, especially if you don't know how to wrestle. You have to keep your hands even lower when you don't know how to wrestle. And Ngannou has the story that prize fighters dream of. Making that kind of money fighting in different sports, living out your dream. I mean, this guy wanted to be a boxer when he was a kid, and he got to do it against the best in the world. And getting knocked out happens in the sport to some of the best. And Ngannou's not one of the best in boxing. He's not even a boxer. And it's not even just the fighters, even the fans. Ask any fan, which path would you take? What would you do? Would you fight John Jones for like $8 million and then fight Tom Aspinall and Sergey Pavlovich for a little bit less? Or would you fight Tyson Fury for $10 million and then fight Anthony Joshua for $20 million? I'm pretty sure most people would take the boxing fights. Every fighter would, and every fan would. Every human being would. That alone tells you if Ngannou made the right decision or not.